How to create a fully functional online Tic Tac Toe game between two players using HTML, CSS, JavaScript and WebSocket. Let's move on to implementation. It's important to ensure that Node.js is installed on your system before you start creating a Node.js application. Open the command line and enter the command npm init-y. This command will create a package.js file with default settings. Then install the Express and WebSocket packages. Let's create files server.js, index.html, styles.css, and script.js. Let's move on to implementing the logic in server.js. First, import the necessary modules. Next, initialize an Express application and an HTTP server. Then initialize a WebSocket server that will use the HTTP server. After that, create a waiting list for players and a list for active games. Next, set up the Express application to serve static files from the public directory. After that, listen for new WebSocket connections. Add the new WebSocket connection to the waiting players list. Check if there are at least 2 players waiting. Initialize a new game with the first 2 players from the waiting list. Remove the first 2 players from the waiting players array and assign them to player first and player second. Create a new game object with the players, an empty board, a randomly chosen current player, and the initialize game state variables. Add the new game to the games array. Notify both players that the game has started. Send a start message to both players, indicating whether they are the current player. This sets up an event listener for the message event, which is triggered whenever a message is received from the WebSocket connection. Parse the incoming message and find the game associated with the WebSocket connection. Handle move messages to update the game board. If the message type is move and the game is not over, check if the current player is the one making the move and if the board cell is empty. Update the board with the player's move, switch the current player and notify both players of the move. Call the checkWinner function to check for a winning condition. Handle restart messages to reset the game. If the message type is restart, reset the game board, choose a new current player randomly, and reset the game state variables. Notify both players of the restart. Listen for the WebSocket connection closure. This sets up an event listener for the close event, which is triggered when the WebSocket connection is closed. Find the game associated with the closed connection and notify the opponent of the disconnection. Remove the game from the games array and the player from the waiting players array. Define the winning combinations for a Tic Tac Toe game. These are the possible winning combinations for a 3x3 Tic Tac Toe board. Iterate over each winning combination to check if any player has won. Check if the cells in the current combination are all filled with the same player's mark. If the cell set indices A, B, and C are all filled and contain the same mark, a player has won. Set the winner property of the game to the winning mark. Set the game over property to true. Notify both players of the win by sending a win message with the winner's mark. Return from the function to stop further checks. If no player has won, check if the board is full to determine the draw. Set the game over property to true. Notify both players of the draw by sending a draw message. Now let's move on to creating the structure in the HTML file. First, create the basic HTML structure with the necessary meta tags and title. Next, create a container for the game elements. Add a button for players to search for a game. Create the game board with cells for the Tic Tac Toe grid. A container for the game board initially hidden. Each cell in the Tic Tac Toe grid with a data index attribute to identify its position. Add elements to display messages and indicate the current player's turn. Add a button to restart the game. A button to restart the game initially hidden. Finally, include the JavaScript file to handle game logic and interactions. Now let's move on to writing styles. First, style the body to center the content and set the background. Set the height to 100 pixels of the viewport height. Apply a linear gradient background. Next, style the game container to give it a background and padding. Round the corners of the container. Add a shadow to the container for a lifted effect. Style the game board to use a grid layout. Define 3 columns, each 100 pixels wide. Define 3 rows, each 100 pixels tall. Add space between the cells. Style the cells to make them interactive and visually appealing. Center the content horizontally and vertically. Add a border around the cell. Apply a semi-transparent background. Add a smooth transition effect to background and transform properties. Add hover effects to make the cells interactive. Change the background color and hover. Slightly enlarge the cell and hover. Style the message and turn message elements. Style the buttons to make them visually appealing. Round the corners of the button. Add a smooth transition effect for the background. Add hover effects to make the buttons interactive. Add margin above the restart button. Next, we will move on to implementing the logic in script.js. First, grab references to the necessary DOM elements. First, grab the button element with the ID search button. Then grab the div element with the ID border. After that, grab the div element with the ID message. Then grab the div element with the ID turn message. Grab the button element with the ID restart button. Select all elements with the class cell. Set up variables to manage the WebSocket connection and game state. Add an event listener to the search button to initiate a WebSocket connection. Attach a click event listener to the search button. Close any existing WebSocket connection. Establish a new WebSocket connection. Clear the game board. Hide the search button. Display a waiting message. Clear the turn message. Hide the restart button. Reset the game over state. Handle the WebSocket connection open event. Handle incoming messages from the WebSocket. handle the WebSocket connection close event. Add an event listeners to the cells to handle player moves. Iterate over each cell. Attach a click event listener to each cell. Check if it's the current player's turn, the cell is empty and the game is not over. Get the index of the clicked cell. Send a move message to the server. Add an event listener to the restart button to restart the game. Define helper functions to update the board, disable the board, enable the board, and clear the board. Update the board with the given board state. Disable all cells by removing their click event listeners. Enable all cells by adding their click event listeners. Clear the content of all cells. Let's fix some problems. To start our application, execute the following command in your terminal. As a result, we created a fully functional online game of Tic Tac Toe between two players using HTML, CSS, JavaScript and WebSocket.